Hi everyone, welcome back to Chefy Things, and today we are making lemon blueberry muffins. To make lemon blueberry muffins, I have our equipment and our ingredients. So let's talk about our equipment. So we're going to be using a large mixing bowl, a sifter, a microplane, a whisk, a rubber spatula, a cookie scoop, some measuring spoons, a scale, a muffin tin, and some liners. And it is up to your preference whether you want to use them or you can just skip it all together and just spray your pan with a little nonstick spray or coat the inside with butter. To start off with our ingredients, I have all-purpose flour. We're going to actually take and sift this together shortly. And we have our other dry ingredients, which are our leaveners. So we have baking soda, baking powder, and salt. So as I sift these dry ingredients, let's talk about what baking soda and baking powder does. I'm wanting to sift together my dry ingredients so everything is nice and dispersed, and there's less likely a chance to have a pocket or a clump of salt or our leavener. So as you can see, all of our mixture is in. This is more of an old-fashioned sifter. This was actually a gift given to me. So I'm going to sift together some of my granulated sugar. There are some lumps in there, so that's just going to help make sure everything is nice and smooth. And I do actually want to take and reserve a small portion of this, I would say about an ounce of sugar left, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that shortly. So all of our ingredients have been sifted. I'm going to take and set this to the side as we will no longer need it. As you can see, our mixture is nice and kind of homogeneous. Can't tell where the baking powder ends and where the flour begins. So let's talk about our leaveners real quick. So we're using both baking powder and baking soda. And something interesting about baking soda is that is a base. Most people have it on hand all the time. Some people might even use it to deodorize their refrigerators as it can help catch all of that smell. But today we're using it in our recipe. One warning about using baking soda is that if there's too much in a recipe, it can leave a soapy or bitter taste in your product. We are also using baking powder, which is both an acid and a base. And so they work together with one another, and the only thing that it actually needs is moisture. So we are going to get that today from our butter and our milk. It's also a great idea to have your recipe near or by that you can take and look at to make sure you have all of your ingredients in the order that it's going to be done in. We're going to set this to the side and work on our liquids. So I'm actually going to reuse my flour bowl that I had measured it out into to make the whole process easier and just a few less dishes to wash. So we're going to start off with our liquid ingredients. Also, while I'm doing this, I want to let you guys know that I actually have my oven preheated at 425 degrees. So once these are mixed, we can pop them right into the oven, and the sooner they get into our bellies. So today I'm using melted butter. Of course, I'm using unsalted, so I can control the amount of salt. If you don't have butter on hand, you can also use a neutral oil. I highly recommend vegetable oil or even avocado. To this, I'm going to add 1 egg. I have my egg and most of my liquids at room temperature. That way it is more likely to be a homogeneous mixture, so everything's together and has become one, makes it go a lot quicker as well. So I'm also adding in some milk and a little bit of homemade vanilla. So with this recipe, we are using a method called the muffin method, not the Muffin Man method, the muffin method. So this is where we're getting our dry ingredients and mixing them together with our liquids, and they become one. And it's really quick and simple and something easy to do by hand. And I promise you, it'll taste a lot better than that packet mix that you can buy at your grocery store. So before we continue, I want to show you about the lemon portion. So we're going to use our handy dandy microplane. So we're actually going to zest the lemon. So why zest a lemon? So the essential oils and where the true essence of the lemon is found within the zest. So the very outer portion of the lemon. I caution whenever you're zesting to be careful not to go too far in, as you will get to the white portion, which is called the pith, which is bitter. And we don't want that. Now caution, your house is going to smell like lemon and sunshine. Oh no. So two ways that you can do it is you can actually take and place it over your vessel and go back and forth like this, checking on it to make sure that you're not getting to that pith, or you can take and turn it upside down and see the progress as you go about. So the recipe does call for 2 teaspoons. Honestly, use your best judgment on how much lemon you want. So I'm just leaving a little bit left behind, and I'm gonna take and use my finger to get everything out. Don't do this. Nobody wants grated finger. Go from the backside. Give it a few light taps as well. And so as you can see, I have my lemon zest and my sugar, and now I'm going to take and massage it in. So what's happening is, think about you're exfoliating your skin, how the little granules are getting in and kind of releasing all of that dead skin, but in this case, we're releasing essential oils. As you can see with us mixing it together, the sugar is actually starting to turn a little tinge of yellow as well. And this is very versatile. If you don't have lemon on hand and you happen to have another citrus like lime or orange, you go to replace it with that. Just switch up the name too. So now that that sugar mixture has been incorporated with that lemon zest, I am actually going to add it back into my dry ingredients and give that a mix. Wow, you can really see that yellow color. So with this method, you want to take and make sure that you're adding your liquid ingredients into your dry, and I'm actually going to discard the whisk and only use my rubber spatula, because the goal is to not overwork our dough. No, it's not a dough, it's a batter. Don't overwork your batter. You don't want to overmix your batter, because then it makes a tough muffin and you have large air pockets, which you'd think would be a good thing, but in this case, it's not. My butter was just re-solidified slightly because of the temperature of the milk. There's not going to be any issues with that, as it will all become one shortly. Make sure you get all of this out. All right, so now I'm just kind of mixing it in, and some of you might actually be asking yourself, Chefy, why haven't you mentioned the blueberries? Today I am using frozen blueberries, and so with that, we want to make sure that those blueberries stay nice and frozen up until the point that we're ready to use them. You can also use fresh blueberries at this point as well. Just use what you have on hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop at this point. As you can see, I still have some lumps and even a few dry spots of flour. That's okay. So whenever we go to mix in our blueberries, this will be a time where we're going to continue to mix and even fold it in, but not overwork it. So let's go get those blueberries. So we have our frozen blueberries right here. You can see they have a little bit of ice on them. Also, something that I want to mention, whenever we're working with adding different things into our batter, it's really important that we lightly coat and dust them with a little bit of flour. And so what this will do is it will actually allow our blueberries to stay submerged and float within our batter rather than sinking straight to the bottom. So they're getting their life jackets on right now. Also, you don't want to incorporate all of this added extra flour. So as you can see, I have quite a bit left behind in my bowl. So I'm just gonna kind of gently place them in without getting all of that extra flour incorporated into it. All right, so as you can see, there's leftover flour. We're not going to be adding that. So with folding, it's kind of a dramatic way, but you push down through the middle, lift up, and turn your bowl down and over, down and over, down and over. If you do start to see some little streaks of blue or purple, that's okay. That's just the blueberries coming up from the temperature of what they were at, aka the freezer. And I'm gonna go ahead and stop at this point. So there's a few little lumps left into my batter, but as you can see, those blueberries are kind of moving throughout. Now we're gonna get our pan prepared and scoop these muffins. I don't happen to have a 12 count of muffin liners currently. We are taking and using my large 24 count. I did allow for extra space just because I have it. There will not be a difference if you have them in a 24 count or a 12 count muffin tin. This recipe can also be made into a single loaf as well. So I am using, it is right under a 2 ounce scoop right here. These are very handy because they portion out your batter and everything is nice and even. So I'm gonna go in. It is important whenever you're scooping your muffin that you think and kind of move around so you don't get a whole big muffin that just has a ton of blueberries without having a ton of batter. So I'll take and actually move around. So I do kind of scrape the scoop against the side of the bowl to get a nice level portion. And if you do get down to the last little bit and you don't happen to have any blueberries, which my bowl doesn't have any blueberries, we can play a little bit of a game. Take some out from one, add it to another, but we're not adding any extra batter. Fight the temptation. Everything should be nice and even. That way they take about the same amount of time to cook and nobody fusses over who gets the bigger muffin. So before these go into the oven, I do want to take, just to add texture, I'm going to be using some sanding sugar, or you can use something called turbinado sugar or sugar in the raw. And I'm just going to take and sprinkle just a little bit on top. It adds an overall crunch. Some people actually do a streusel topping, which is another video that we can get into. So like dusting on top, it's really pretty. They do have colored ones that you could take and do with this. You could even maybe do like a yellow. So now these are gonna go into the oven at 425 for 15 to 20 minutes, give or take. So let's pop these in and get them baking. I'm going to check on my muffins. They've been in, oop, there's my timer, for about 10 minutes, give or take. I'm gonna take a look at them, see about rotating the pans and going from there. They look really nice. They're getting their dome tops, but I can see that they're still raw in the middle. So it's important that we turn our pan about halfway through the process just because there are some warm spots and cooler spots in everybody's ovens. So this is just to make sure everything's cooking nice and evenly. Let me reset that timer. So while we allow those to finish cooking, I'm gonna whip up a simple powdered sugar glaze to go on top, utilizing that leftover lemon. So I am sifting together some powdered sugar right here. I broke out my baby whisk. So with a simple powdered sugar glaze, you can take and do other liquids such as milk or water, but today we're using lemon juice. So I have, out of our lemon that we zested, I have a little over 2.5 tablespoons. So it truly starts to dissipate and come together. The thicker it is less likely opaque, and you will see large streaks of it that will take and drizzle onto the top of our muffins. Or you can also make it thinner where it's opaque and see-through. So as you can see, it comes together. I like to see like a little drizzle. And so the lemon juice balances out the powdered sugar and all of the sweetness. I'm gonna thin mine out just slightly. And these muffins are great with or without this glaze. It is truly a preference. And just like that, we're good to go. So I'm gonna set this aside, and something important about this is we wanna put this glaze on after our muffins have cooled down for a little bit. Otherwise, the sugar will dissolve and melt into your muffins, which isn't terrible, but if you want people to see that there's a glaze, allow your muffins to cool. So we're gonna set this aside and wait for our muffins to be done. My timer is going off. Let's check on those muffins. So I am gonna show you with a toothpick test as well, but I'm gonna pull the muffins out of the oven for us to check. Alrighty, so if I can pull this out. With my muffins, what I'm looking for is I can take and press on them gently and they bounce back. I can also take with a toothpick and stick it in and there's nothing left behind. These muffins are done, so I'm actually going to take and pull them out of their muffin tin and place them onto a cooling rack so they can cool off enough for us to put our glaze on and then plate them up for us to try. It's the great part about using a muffin liner. If you're not using a muffin liner, allow your muffins to cool for about 5 minutes in the pan before removing them. You don't actually want them to cool in the pan, as what'll happen is moisture will pull at the bottom, and so I like to call it soggy bottoms. Nobody wants a soggy bottom on their muffin. So we're gonna allow those to cool, and then we'll glaze them and taste them here shortly. I have my muffins that are cooled off on a cooling rack. Also, if you don't happen to have a cooling rack, you could take and just place them directly onto a cool sheet pan or a sheet pan inverted. So then that way they start to cool off a little bit quicker. So I am going to take and drizzle these muffins, at least some of them. I want to save some without. So I'm going to place them a little bit closer together. I'll do half with and half without. Give my glaze a stir and just leave some on. You could take and put this in piping bag or a squeeze bottle and get intricate about this, and that's what we would do if we were in a bakery. But we are keeping it nice and simplistic, and also a few less dishes to wash. From here, you can allow your icing to sit up, but I'm gonna go ahead and start placing them on my platter. Right here. So I'm gonna save one for me to break into, but these are our lemon blueberry muffins. Let's give one a try. I like these parchment papers because you can take and just pull it all apart and it comes right off. Gonna break this open. So you can see that our blueberries are still nice and submerged. Some did sink to the bottom, but that's just how they're gonna be with how many blueberries are actually in it. So let's give this a taste. So these muffins are bursting with lemon flavor, and you get a pop of that blueberry. So it's a really great combination. These are a great balance for muffins. So you get a little bit of sweet, a little bit of tart, but not overwhelming of either. Thank you all so much for joining me to make lemon blueberry muffins. This has been Chefy Things. See you next time.